Hi Capricorn. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for March of 2020. We've got lots of things to tell you about activity of Venus and Mars in relationships, and also Saturn is up to some stuff, changing signs this month. And then Mercury is retrograde, you probably know that. We're going to get out of that one during this month. And then there's full and new moons. Julia, you want to get us started with Venus?
Sure. Hey, Capricorn. So on March 4th, Venus is going to enter your fifth house of fun and amusement. And this is a really great transit for dating if you're single, because this is also known as the house of love affairs. And if you're partnered, then you could be enjoying more times out of the house with your partner, like going to clubs, sports events, shows like theater, or even playing games together. So have fun with that. And then also this month, we're going to be experiencing the spring equinox, and that's when the sun moves from the final degree of Pisces into the very first degree of Aries. And it's a time of a new cycle starting. And this is going to be correlating with your fourth house of family and home. So you might be restructuring things around your home or considering what you need to have a more satisfying and personal and family life during this time. Then, just like what you mentioned earlier, Saturn is going to be changing signs this month and going back and forth between signs throughout the year. But generally, when Saturn enters a new sign, it stays there for at least 2 years. So when Saturn goes into Aquarius, he's going to be entering your second house on March 21st. So the second house is the house of money and possessions, and wherever we have Saturn is where we can feel a bit of a restriction. It's a planet that can bring some challenges into our life, which, nobody likes challenges, but we are always dealing with challenges every year. It's nothing to be scared of. It's just a sort of different area of a life that is being impacted by it. So with Saturn in the second house, over the next couple of years, you could be feeling a bit more of a financial crunch during this time. And it can also be a period where you examine and also manifest in these areas as well, because Saturn can bring some productivity, not just, bringing on the work and the challenges, but you can manifest with Saturn too. So tightening your belt during this time may mean that you're putting more effort into rethinking your finances as well, which might help lay the groundwork for better financial planning later in your life. And then the last planet I'd like to talk about is Mars, which is spending most of this month in your first house of self. So when Mars is in the first, you have a very good understanding of what your rights are, and you're willing to kind of take a stand and assert yourself if you need to, which can be totally helpful. Just be wary of not overdoing it, because Mars tends to, like to bring on its fieriness. Then Mars is going to be moving into your second house. Again, that's the house of possessions and money on March 30th. So during the very, very tail end of the month, you might feel extra driven to increase your finances. But also watch out for a little conflict over money as well, because Mars can definitely bring on the arguments. And what's going on with you this month, Jamie?
Well, we begin the month with Mercury retrograde right here in Pisces. No fun because Mercury doesn't like being in Pisces at all. Pisces is a sign that pretty much is opposite to Mercury's nature because Mercury likes clarity and rigor and ideas and articulation, and Pisces is just very foggy, very muddy, kind of chaotic and messy. And so Mercury doesn't like being in Pisces to begin with, and then to be retrograde in Pisces, well, it's definitely no fun. And you could find out more about this by watching our video, actually the one about the full moon in Virgo, because that's where we talk about this month's Mercury retrograde. And the reason that we do is because Mercury is going to line up with that full moon on the 9th in a really good way. But before we get there, I want to show you that Mercury right here begins the month in Pisces, and as it goes along, it backs up into Aquarius, so that that retrograde motion means backward motion. So Mercury is traveling along backward through the beginning of Pisces into the very end of Aquarius. And Mercury loves to be in Aquarius. Aquarius is an air sign, like Mercury is an air planet, and it can get very, very intellectual, cerebral, nerdy, heady, sciencey in Aquarius, and it really, really likes that. So I think that makes the end of this Mercury retrograde period a little bit nicer than it might be. But the best part of all, of course, is when Mercury goes direct, which it's going to do on the 9th, and that is coinciding with that full moon in Virgo. So when Mercury goes direct, we can see the beginning of the end of the chaos that it's caused. I think that humanity has a bias that we should be able to move forward all the time with projects. We should be able to plan projects and consider that they will get done on their deadlines. But when Mercury goes retrograde, you know what they say, the best laid plans of mice and men gang after glay, and especially during Mercury retrograde. So then when Mercury goes direct, we have a chance to sort of get back on track. And I think that this full moon very much carries that mood because the moon is in Virgo. And a full moon is usually quite emotional. It's a very strong push-pull between the sun and the moon. Emotions tend to run high. These emotions are basically a mood of wanting to create order. And so I think that as Mercury retrograde is finishing, we're going to feel like we're ready to just reorganize. We're ready to clean up that mess and to sort out all of the ideas that rumbled around during Mercury retrograde. For you, that full moon is happening in the 9th house. So you might find yourself in the mood for a restructuring of your entire worldview. And asking yourself some rather precise and detailed questions about, well, what do things mean in life? So that may be how you spend the full moon. As the month goes on, and after the spring equinox, we have got the sun, of course, moving into Aries, and you can see it happening right here at the bottom of the chart. Right there it is in Aries, and the moon is about to catch up and conjunct that sun for a new moon in Aries. And this is the first new moon of the year after the equinox, and it very much holds that feeling of freshness, rebirth, renewal, excitement, the desire to leap in, to be impulsive, to explore and go after what you want. This particular new moon is a little different because it's happening with Chiron right here in the middle between the sun and moon. So this particular new moon has the feeling of healing wrapped up with it. And Chiron, the wounded healer, has a way of pointing out places where we have those old ancient ouchies that have never been healed before. Chiron shows us the ways that we've been split or sundered, or we have a schism right inside of ourselves, and encourages us to find those two things that have been split apart, bring them together, knit it together, and make it whole. And so this particular theme, being an Aries theme, it's going to have to do with honesty, directness, forthrightness, knowing what you want, going after it, expressing that hero, warrior, and pioneer within you that Aries is. And so it's time for that side of you to be healed. This stuff falls in the 4th house for you in particular, Capricorn. And so there may be some battles at home. There may be some anger that hasn't been expressed for a long time that explodes outward. It may be that things get worse a little bit before they can get better. And that doesn't mean that they're not going to get better. So it's really a wonderful opportunity for you to find better ways to assert yourself, not too much, not too little, in just the right way, particularly on the home front. People usually experience these moons, new and full moons, for about a 3-day period surrounding the time of the moon itself. So you may feel this the day before, the day of, and the day after the new moon. Goodness. Trying to think, if you wanted to get a reading this month, what would it be about? I think, a home and family, a family reading or a child reading would be appropriate, considering that new moon in the 4th house and that things might get stirred up at home a little bit. On the other hand, a natal and transit reading to understand yourself better might be the best ticket. because really a lot of these things are spread out over many areas. And there's that Capricorn puppy pile there in the first house, and that's going to go on that way for a couple more months. So Capricorn, you might really feel like there's a lot going on, and that wouldn't be surprising. And you probably already know from our Jupiter in Capricorn video that you can find in the 2020 news playlist that this is absolutely a year of growth for you. Really big growth, and I hope it's going well. And I think that's it. Hope you enjoyed this horoscope that we made for you with love, and we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.